everyone. I am Varsha Gupta, co-founder of Bettering Results. I was previously working as an associate with Shardul Amarchand Mangaldas and Company, and I recently joined Bettering Results as co-founder because I have complete faith in this initiative. I am a lawyer by profession and an entrepreneur by passion. Today I would like to first discuss about what Bettering Results is all about. Bettering Results has been designed to bridge the gap between the practical knowledge and the theoretical knowledge. It has been designed in such a way that we are aiming to, bring innovative ideas and to help young students and professionals. We invite experts from across the world to provide career guidance and to teach on most relevant topics of their profession. Today in the webinar, we are going to discuss about what is blockchain, what are the career opportunities available in blockchain, because if you want to make a career in blockchain space, it is crucial for you to understand what are the career options available. Like Aishwary already told in his video also that for tech people, it's easy to understand and there are so many videos available on YouTube. But when it comes to people like us, when we hear the term blockchain, we think that it is made only for tech people. And therefore, we have amongst us Aishwary Gupta, who has made a very successful career in blockchain. And today he will take you through what is blockchain and what is the roadmap to make a career in blockchain. I will first introduce him and then he will begin with the session. He's a chartered accountant and an IIM Calcutta alum. He's a digital asset researcher. His experiences include working with ZepPay, American Express, and PwC. He and his team are on a mission to make blockchain and cryptocurrency easier for everyone to understand, because we as common people, we do not understand what is blockchain and cryptocurrency, and we are definitely investing a huge amount of money in cryptocurrency. So he along with this, he is also an education partner of Bazirex, the largest cryptocurrency exchange in India, and being part of various blockchain implementations across the globe. He has broad exposure to token economics, designing crypto taxation, and enterprises blockchain implementations. He's a Harvard Select member, a BRICS Young Leader, and a delegate to Vision India Foundation, which is a think tank into nation building. We are glad to have you here, Mr. Aishwarya, and now the stage is yours. Thank you.
Thank you so much. First of all, welcome, and I'm really happy to see so many people in an afternoon trying to go out and trying to learn more about blockchain. So, without wasting or without taking too much time into it, let's deep dive into what exactly is blockchain all about. So, when we talk about blockchains, one thing is there, and one of the common notions that we have in our mind is what if blockchain goes out, and how do we go actually and make a career in blockchain? We see a lot of people telling us that okay, blockchain is going to do this, blockchain is going to do that, but how actually we can go out and how actually we can check or how actually we can make a career in blockchain? So with that thought process in mind as to why or how blockchain, first of all, I would like to discuss a little bit about what exactly is a blockchain. Because until and unless we know what blockchain is, it's very difficult for anyone to go and understand blockchain. So let's talk about, let's say today itself, or let's say 2 3 years back. So internet has been with us like almost 40 years, and internet has given us a lot of things. It has given us the email IDs, the .com, the social media, the big data, and everything. And it has also helped us to reduce the cost of search, collaborations, and it has been very helpful when we exchange information. But it's all about information. Whenever you are going out and you're exchanging information, you have your best friend internet. But what if I have to go out and I have to send money? Or what if I have to go out and I have to talk about something where I have to establish the identity of someone? So, for example, how many people who are there in the webinar? you have a name in front of you as iPhone or let's say OnePlus or something like that. So how does internet help me to understand whether the person who's in front of me, who exactly is that person? So that is one problem that internet is not able to solve. Internet cannot establish that identity for anyone who has met online. So that is one big problem with internet. It is not able to do that. And also, let's say when we are going out and doing any transaction on the internet, you cannot do that on the internet without any intermediary. Why? Because intermediaries form a very important part of our today's life. If we have to send money to someone from anyone, let's say from one place to another, or let's say you have to send me money, what you have to do is you will have to go out and you will have to be dependent upon a centralized body, which is, let's say, a bank or a payment provider or a wallet or credit cards, debit cards, and all those things. Now, what happens is this makes our life easy, but the problem what it brings on is basically it, because it's an intermediary, is going to incur costs and it's going to charge you, and that's going to be a very good cost. And because when you involve intermediaries, the second problem that arises, more the people, more is the problem with the people, which is like more is the cost involved when you are going out and when you are doing transactions. So that is again another problem which is there when we talk about internet. And then all the data that we have stored with these payment partners or banking channels and everything, they get hacked. And when they get hacked, what happens is you lose out your data. And when you lose out your data, what happens is they're sold publicly on the dark web and all those things start to happen. So, and the biggest reason of all, when internet came into picture, it said that it's aiming at bringing everyone out there into this financial inclusion, and it's ensuring that it's going to bring in every person from every corner of the world onto this financial inclusion, which means people having the basic bank accounts or ways in which they can move funds, they can deposit funds, they can earn interest, and all those banking activities that were needed to be done. Now, all these things are still a problem, were still a problem. So there was a need where you can go out and you can eliminate those third parties, create a kind of trust without having any third person coming in and introducing you. And the last thing is with this 2.5 billion people, almost 1.7 billion people are such which have a mobile phone, maybe a smartphone, and you can run internet on them. So even if the banks are not reaching them, even if there is no infrastructure in the country or something like that, they can still become a part of financial inclusion if we can bring in something which is known as a blockchain. So now, when the information revolution is complete, we need a revolution where we can move assets over the internet. We can move all those assets without the need of validation, without the need of verifying, without the need of third parties and all those things. Why? Because blockchain is doing everything for you. So, with this thought in mind, let's understand what exactly is a blockchain. Now, when you talk about blockchain, so very simply, blockchain is something, if I give you an example, blockchain is just like a database. So, it's not something which is very different for one individual or something like that. It's just a database. It's just a way in which you store data. But the way it stores data and the way it ensures that that data integrity is maintained is something that has made it very popular. Now, instead of going and explaining what the definition is, let me tell you what, let me go a little bit more ahead and take a very simple example because I want you to understand blockchain. I don't want you to just ratify a definition which is of blockchain and then make no sense. So let's talk about a very simple example, an example where I can say, uh, assume that you're a bunch of five friends and you bunch of five friends, you want to go out and you want to party. And let's say you want to go out and watch a movie. Now, when you go out and when you want to watch a movie, the one thing that you would do is that you would everyone would not be like okay, if there are five people, everyone individually is going and buying the tickets, everyone individually is going and buying the food, everyone individually is going and paying for the cabs, even if they're coming in the same cab. All those things will not happen. What will happen is maybe someone is doing some expenses, other is doing that, some other expenses, and at the end, what they will do is they will total it up and divide it by five and see who has to pay what and who has to get what. So that is usually how they do the things. But the problem here that comes in is sometimes we often think that there's this one friend who has maybe taken some extra money, or maybe he has gone out, or maybe he has charged something which was not true. But because we do not want to ruin a friendship, we do not want to ruin the relation, we don't go out and say it, but it's still there in my mind. So it's always going to be there in our mind until unless we have an explanation. So let's say, let's try a better way. We download app, something like Splitwise, or we create a Google form. Now, in that Google form, what I do is, instead of in that Google form, I enter all the email IDs of all the friends. So every time I'm doing, or every time I'm going out, and every time I'm adding a data into that Google Sheet, or every time I'm doing an expense, I can just add the data on the Google Sheet. And after adding that data on the Google Sheet, because everyone has the access, everyone can go out and everyone can just simply read what exactly has been written, and they can verify the bills that have been attached. And that's a good way, where you can just go out and you just can just ensure that all the things that I have done is transferred. Now, when we are doing such thing, there is one problem that exists. No, not one. There are multiple problems that exist. The first problem is because, let's say, this is something where uh, you have the data which is stored where you have this data stored somewhere which is in a centralized database, let's say of Google. When you have some database which is stored in Google, what happens is that database that you have on Google, that is something that can be corrupted. Why? Simply because if you are going out and if you're keeping a data into a centralized source, there are two ways. Internally, maybe Google wants to change the data. It has the right. It will not do it, but if it wants to, it can do. That is one thing. The second is because it's a centralized database where all the data is stored. The problem is if everyone tries to, or if a major group of hackers try to hack that database or hack that live source where all the data has been stored, it is comparatively very easy for them to do it. And if they're able to do it, what they can do is they can manipulate that. I mean, I wouldn't care if that's just a movie outing and that data is manipulated, obviously. But think about those startups, think about those new companies that are out there, which are just going out. And with those companies, they are just storing all the data onto these systems. That is, so this is like the first problem, the centralized database, which can be corrupted from inside or the outside. The second thing is, whenever you are going out and whenever you are putting anything on this database, later on what you could do is maybe when at night, maybe when your friends are sleeping, you can just go out and you can just modify all the records, but they will not be able to see which record you have modified because there is no way in which you can track it. So even with that, having a Google Sheet, you might not still be getting the total expense as correct, because what has happened is somebody has gone out and somebody has done a change. So that is another problem which is there. The third is, because all this data has been kept there and it's under one server, which is a centralized one, time and again it will have to go out and it will have to go for a maintenance. It might have, so maybe when you need the data, often you would have seen in the bank accounts, you see some of the apps just going for a scheduled maintenance. So even if you have the money in your bank accounts, the apps are not working, so it's like you cannot work or you cannot move money through the apps. So all these were problems which were there, and the biggest of them all, like Amazon recently, which it did with its AWS service. If all the websites or all the data that was stored on AWS, Amazon said that we are bringing in a new version of Java on which these or websites are coded. And if you have to sustain or if you have to keep your data on our platforms, you will have to recode your websites or you will have to upgrade your websites using that AWS Java format. And if you don't do it, after this time, we will cut your support. Now, that is a very big problem for any entity. Let's say if a startup has all the data stored there and it is given like a 1 month wait, 1 month time schedule to go out and change the data. And if they're not able to, they're just kicked. So all these problems exist in these kinds of today's systems. Now, what blockchain does is, blockchain is created in a way where the data in the database which is stored, so the data is stored in the format of a block. Now, what exactly is the advantage that you get with the block? When you talk about blockchain, all this data that is out there, that data which is stored on the block is secured. Every time any particular kind of data is there, which is stored in a blockchain, it is secured by cryptographic hashes. And the biggest benefit about this is the first problem we discussed about those centralized servers. So here we do not have any centralized servers. You have decentralized servers. Decentralized server means that the same amount of data which was just present at one place, and maybe there were backups somewhere else on those centralized database. Here you have that live data at thousands of places. The biggest example of blockchain is Bitcoin. So if I just give you the example of Bitcoin, so you have more than 13,400 nodes which are active right now, which have complete data of what is written on the Bitcoin network. Every single detail. Now, how many of you will be able to hack 13,000 sources of data at just one point of time? And even if you leave three, that's it. If you leave three such data points, you can still go out and you can still maintain that database untampered. And this database is not something which is stored at one place; it is at 13,000 places across the globe. So imagine how difficult it became suddenly for you, even with lesser security, to go out and just be able to secure that data in a decentralized format and never worry about having a backup or all those things, because you have live databases of almost 13,000. And this is just the nodes that are there. You can, anyone like I, even when I'm not a node, I can simply download the data which is there in the Bitcoin network and keep it in. So that makes this data so secure that even there is no way in which any external party can go and hack and disrupt this data. That is the first one. The second issue I said, which was someone can change the data internally. Whenever you are writing anything on the Bitcoin network or on the blockchain network, and that block has been added to the blockchain, what happens is you're no more allowed to edit that data, modify that data, delete that data, or do anything with that data. All you are allowed to do is you're just allowed to add more data to it. So maybe if you entered a wrong data, what you can do is next entry could be reversal of the previous data, and then you can enter the right data. So this way, what you have done is you have taken away the right of anyone and everyone to go and modify that data, even if the data is available publicly. Now, that is another power that blockchain gives you. It gives you a power where even with whatever data that you have, you are not able to change that. And this is very powerful. Why? Because it creates a perfect audit trail for anything and everything that happens. And just to give you this into perspective, more than 99% of the money laundering which happens through Hawala and cash can never be traced because it's cash. But almost 98% of the transactions that have happened on the Bitcoin network and were happening because of these illicit activities, people have been able to identify. People have been able to pin down who was the person who has done it, and these people have been put behind bars. So that is something, that is the power of having a database which cannot be modified. You have the perfect audit, right? And the last one is, like I said, the AWS was able to modify that data whenever it wanted. Here, AWS or these kinds of hierarchies where a central body or a central management can change whatever they want was not allowed. Why? Because all the data is managed by these nodes, and it's not one single entity who is going out and managing this. So, because of this particular thing, what happens is blockchain is something which becomes way more powerful than just a database which was already existing. It gives you a timestamp series of immutable records of data, and it is managed by a cluster of computers which is not owned by any single entity. And all these data, once it is there put on the blockchain network, it is secured and it is bound from each other with the help of cryptography. Cryptography is a security mechanism through which it happens. So that's all what is all about blockchain. And in its most simple form, that is what you get. So all the data which is there, I'll just give you a recap. All the data which is there, it is decentralized, you cannot hack it and you cannot corrupt it. All the data has a perfect time trail or timestamp and an audit trail. So you can always know who has done what. Nobody can come out and say, hey, I did not do that. It was someone else. No, you cannot do that. And it is not managed by one single entity. So arbitrary changes cannot be made. It has to take into consideration most of the people or most of the miners. It has to go out and it has to operate something. And it is not owned by a single. This is something which makes blockchain very powerful. Now, leveraging this particular thing, what has happened is there is a lot of automation that started to happen on the blockchain. So, what exactly is that automation? That automation is something which most of you in the law field would be very much wanting to know, which is smart contracts. Now, what exactly is a smart contract? So, explaining you in a very simple way, a smart contract is just all your legal documents put on top of a code. So imagine anything that any agreement that you are making for your client, it's just going out and you're just putting it in terms of codes. Now, why do I want to do that? I mean, you guys could relate in the best way. You would want to put something on a code is because the interpretation that happens for both the parties, that interpretation is always going to be the same. If I have written that I want to receive 1 lakh rupees from Mr. X, Mr. X is also agreeing that he has to pay 1 lakh to me because it is something which is written on the codes. It is not that Mr. X is saying I would be paying this 99,000, but I am assuming I'm getting 1 lakh. So that is why this smart contract becomes very powerful. It ensures that both the parties who are using this kind of a smart contract, they understand exactly the terminologies, exactly at the same level, and they're all both at the same level, and they don't have something where someone has a different thought process and someone else has a different thought. So that is it. So what exactly the smart contract? The smart contract is basically a contract which requires at least two, and it can be millions of people who want to become a part of it. Second, all contracts are written in the form of code, and these smart contracts are stored on blockchain. Now, when they're stored on blockchain or when they're deployed on blockchain, what happens is all the things or all the power of blockchain comes into picture. All the things that I just explained you to in this. So it becomes immutable. You cannot go out and modify it. So all these things are when you get something like this, and all these things are getting triggered. So you don't have to go out and ensure that this contract is working on. The smart contract automatically will do that for you. Why? Because you can build in as many conditions as you want, and those smart contracts will ensure that all those conditions are met. Let's take an example, and let me give you a very good taste of what a smart contract. So just like if else statements, I think everyone would know what exactly is an if else statement. If this condition is true, then do this, else do that. That is exactly what an if else condition. So when a smart contract is there, what happens is in this smart contract, let's take an example that I want to go out and I want to pay $1,200 to someone. When I have to pay $1,200 to someone, I don't want to go out and pay that $1,200 just in one go. What I have to do is I have to basically go out, and because of this, I have to pay $100 every month to this person. I don't want to go out. I don't want to give him the whole 1,200. Now, how do you actually go out and how do you actually do it? Anyone who wants to answer it in the chat box is most open to answer that. Okay. So let me tell you. So basically, what you will do is you will go out and you will give a standing instruction to the bank, saying that this is $1,200 and you have to go out and you have to make this payment to Mr. X every month, $100. Or maybe if it's $1 million transaction, what you will do is you will create an escrow account. And with that escrow account, what you will do is you will also go out and you will also create, along with that escrow account, maybe you hire some lawyers as well to ensure that escrow account or all the things are getting paid at exactly the same time. Now, what a smart contract does it takes all these things, put it onto the code, and it removes any standing instructions that were required, any lawyers that would have ensured all these things to happen because automatically the things are happening. And the third thing, it also removes the need of any escrow because it can store the money or it can store the value within its. So first thing that you get here is less number of people who have the overall control over the contract. Second, a better clear picture about the contract. Third, reduce costs because you no more have to go and pay for any of these services that you did. So that is what makes smart contracts so efficient. And today, if you talk about what exactly these smart contracts are or how much these smart contracts can go out and create a value, so almost over, I'll tell you how much, almost over $98 billion is deployed on these smart contracts. Now, if you talk about can these smart contracts be modified? The answer is no. Until and unless you have given out certain conditions that if this is a condition, you can go out and ask whether this particular thing has to be followed or not, then you won't be able to. Because once anything has been deployed on a blockchain, you cannot go out and edit it. So only you can make more additions. So you can, if you have made certain provisions in the smart contract to accept more conditions or to maybe ask for your views, only then you can do that. Apart, otherwise, you won't be able to do any such changes in the smart contract. So that is again something which you have to consider when you're working with a smart contract. So like if you have some legal framework which later on you want to modify, so all you can do is you can agree with the other parties which are there to create a new smart contract with the amended conditions. But you cannot go and touch the original smart contract. So that is what this automation is giving you. And this is no more a small thing. That is why I told you it controls over $98 billion under it. Every day we have millions and billions of dollars being run. So if you talk about cryptocurrencies, all these stable coins that are there, they're just smart contracts. Most of the cryptocurrencies that are running, they are just smart contracts. Uniswap, Aave, all these are basically smart contracts. So the smart contracts have already been there in the market. They are very much successful in the market and they're being used extensively. And this is where the opportunity also lies. So this is how I can just go out and I can say that smart contracts are something which, if you are a lawyer and if you are wanting to understand blockchain, if you want to make a career into blockchain, these things, or if you're anyone, even the financial professionals, if you are someone from the finance domain as well, what happens is with all those things that are happening around you, even these smart contracts can help you automate all your accounting as well. So all the accounting that is happening, you can automate that with the help of smart contracts. Along with that, what happens is if you are going and doing any such thing which the courts can understand, you are a smart contract indefinitely. So that is how this whole thing works. And I've taken some examples where all these things can happen, where blockchain can be implemented and smart contracts can be. So first, let's talk about smart contracts. So this is here, if you see on this particular slide, you will see a lot of things, a lot of names of these protocols and a lot of things. These are basically all of them a kind of a smart contract. And what they're doing is they're doing a lot of things like payments. They're managing payments today. They are offering custodian services today. They are going out and they are providing liquidities to the exchanges. They are enabling investments, passive investments, derivatives, marketplaces, prediction markets, insurances, credit lending, everything that a financial institution can do, a smart contract is going out and is doing that today in this world. So, a new industry which is coming up, which does not require a lot of human intervention, but it requires what? It requires something where all these things are automated and you just don't have to go into it. It also helps you to understand that human mistakes, or if you talk about the mistakes like the banking system has done by giving out, extending loans to people who did not provide security, and all those issues that we know, and because of which we have such an high or huge amount of NPAs and all. Well, there is zero NPA when you talk about taking a loan into these decentralized places. And the amount of time that it requires just a minute to go out and take a loan. Compare it with any other loan that you have to today go out and do. Maybe if you want to buy a house or if you want to set up your practice, if you want an office, all those things. So here what is happening is all these things are getting automated. Now, once more and more things like this get automated, what will happen is you will see such things working so well that even the traditional finance was not able to cope up. So this is one of this such example where smart contracts work. Apart from that, if I just take about blockchain, so two bigger examples, or you can say three big examples, which touch your life for 100% daily. First is insurance. So blockchain is something which is working very well with the insurance sector as well. Blockchain is ensuring that all the things that are there in the insurance sector, like parametric insurance, micro insurances, P2P insurances. So there is no concept as P2P insurance today. Blockchains are enabling that. Blockchains are enabling fraud detection as well. They are ensuring that all the frauds that happen in the industry can be detected through blockchain by putting all that data that is there of insurance onto the blockchain, and no, you cannot later on edit or modify this. So a lot of things are happening on the insurance space. Then the second one is stock markets. So today we have stock markets where if you want to go out, let's say, and if you want to talk about settlements, so settlements in Indian exchanges take at least 2 days. T plus two settlements we have. So you need 2 days to settle your securities first. Second problem is you have so many intermediaries in between. You have your broker, you have your exchanges, you have your settlement systems, all those places, which increases the cost as well. So there is a huge cost that is involved when you're going out and you are purchasing any securities. Third, if you want to go out and let's say if you want to have hold some partial holding of it, any shares, let's say the price of any share is let's say 20,000 rupees, and I just have 2,000 rupees in my wallet. Can I go out and buy that share of 2,000 rupees? The answer is no. But that is the problem here again. And the fourth problem is, what if I want to buy a share of Apple and I want to do it right now and I don't want to wait for 3 days to open an account, transfer funds internationally, then go out and do those transactions. So these are the four problems that basically are available on the stock market today. But when you talk about blockchain, the settlement becomes T plus 2 seconds. Instant settlement happens. Second is when if you want to have partial holdings, you can very well go out and you can have partial holding of shares. You still get the dividend, but your partial holding, if you're holding a partial thing, you will get partial dividends. So it's equivalent hold. Third thing is you can trade 24 by 7. Yeah. Fourth is you can trade international shares and everything sitting here in just 2 minutes. You don't have to go out and open an account with an international broker, send monies across the globe, incur so many costs, take so much time. No. Blockchain is already doing that. And if you will see some exchanges like FTX exchange, they're already offering such kind of security tokens where they have these all the services that you do is given out. So how does a partial holding work? So basically what happens is you appoint a firm which is taking care of the custody of all the shares that are there, which are being traded on the exchange. And what happens is with all those data that is given out by the exchange to this holder, they will just allocate the partial holdings in your favor. So anyway, if you talk about today's NSE, BSE, the shares that you have in your Demat account are also not with you. You do not hold any such shares with yourself. They are held by your broker only. Similarly, here, although shares are held by something which is this firm, which is going to hold, and it is going to ensure that all the names are allocated as per the holding of that. Maybe it's partial or if it's full. So that is how you go out and you revolutionize the whole stock. And the third one, like I've already told you, which is the banks. So all those services which were offered by the banks has been or is already being offered except one service, which is the locker service. Why? Because all these things are working on code and they do not give you a physical space. So you cannot have lockers on top of blockchain, most probably. That's the only thing that you cannot have on it. Apart from that, having an insurance, taking out loans, giving out your money to earn interest more than the interest that you can ever get in your saving bank's account. You don't have any such conditions. Like, for example, if you go and take a home loan, you have to go and fill at least for a month all those documentations and everything. Here, you don't have to do all those things. So this is something which where all these banking things are also moving towards blockchain. Now, a lot of people will go out and say, hey, it's all good, but India does not have such things. India is not talking about blockchain. There is no such development about blockchain. So that is why I bring to you a map of India, where if you want to see, more than 50% of the states have been using blockchain or onboarding blockchain in order to run or in order to do something which can be done on top of blockchain. There are three common areas, or there are three focus areas which most of the states are focusing on. The first one is land records. They're digitizing all the land records and putting it on a blockchain. So that is the biggest one. The second one is if you're going out and if you are talking about farm insurance. A lot of people, India is an agrarian economy. Today, if you want to go out and if you want to pay the farmer the insurance claim, it usually takes up to 2 months. And my father is someone who is sure who does that or who is involved in the process, so I know it at least takes 2 months. So all those things is there. That is a very big problem. So a farmer without a produce has no money, and for insurance claim to come in, it requires 2 more months. That means more farmer suicides, more problems with the farmers, and all those things. Now, what blockchain is doing is it has partnered with World Bank, and what it is trying to do is it is trying to bring four parties together. Now, what are those four parties? First party is which state is the front runner? I would say Telangana. Telangana has the most use cases. Okay, so now coming back, so there are four parties. One is insurance companies. Second is banking companies. Third is weather department or the forecasting department, and the fourth is basically which is your ISRO or satellite department. Now, what happens is once this infrastructure is completely built, as soon as the weather forecast department says that that area is drought prone or that area has suffered a drought, the next thing that will happen is as soon as this is forecasted, ISRO will take this data. It will use a satellite to map all that data which is coming under that affected area. Once it is able to do that, it will go out and it will send that data to the insurance companies. And those insurance companies will see how many people are affected. And because they will have the bank accounts linked, automatically the insurance claims will be sent out to the farmer's account. And this whole process is being tested via smart contract. And using that smart contract, the time that you would now require is somewhere between 2 to 4 hours. That's it. A thing which requires more than 2 months is something which is being done in less than 2 hours or less than a day. That is what India is building on. So that is again something where you can go out and say that where blockchain is coming in and it's making an impact. So this is another thing which is there. Then what comes out is let me see. I have read a PE study stating to adopt blockchain in its future. Can you please share how is specifically used in this industry and what exactly are its blockchain? See, that is what I'm telling you, where blockchains and how blockchains are helping. So I just told you about the farm insurance. Let's get back and talk about the land registry. So a land registry usually takes at least, again, 2 to 3 months. And this is an example which India is testing right now, but has been already implemented in Dubai. So now in Dubai, what they have done is they have brought in five parties together with blockchain. One is their government, their land revenue department, their water department, their taxes department. So these are the government ones. Then they have brought in the parties who want to transact, the purchaser and the seller. And what they have done is they have brought in the insurance company and the banks. Now, what happens here is, let's say someone wants to sell a property through this portal. What it will do is it will register his property online because that portal is automatically linked with all those departments. You can easily see if there is any dues that are available that are yet to be paid on the platform itself as soon as it is registered. The second thing that you do is you can also see, because it is connected to the insurance company, that can also you can also see whether your property is insured or not. The third thing, it is connected to the banks. The banks will tell whether this property is hypothecated or freehold. And once all these things are there on that platform and the seller wants to sell, what will happen is as soon as he clicks on sell, so that what happens is property gets listed for a sale. If any dues are yet to be paid, those dues he needs to clear first. So on that platform only, he has to go out and he just has to click on payment and make the payments. Once that is done, that property is out for sale. The purchaser who is purchasing that, he can see whether he is the original owner, what is the history of that property, all those details that I talked to you about, and ultimately take the profit. Again, a process which takes 2 3 months can just be done within a day, and they have tried and tested it, and within 5 hours was the fastest sale that they have done. So within 5 hours all the things were completed, all the paperwork, all the documentation, all the duties that had to be paid to the government, everything within 5 hours. So that's what blockchain is bringing. And the third is certification. So today we see all the certificates that are issued, and this is something which I have also started. So if you go out and if you do any courses with me, all the certificates that I issue are backed by blockchain. So they are put on blockchain. Why? What is the benefit of putting it on blockchain? The biggest benefit that I get is basically anyone can go out and get if he wants to verify that if it's you who has done this. All he has to do is he just has to take the number that is there, which is issued on the certificate, and just paste it on a website, and he can verify. Because and if someone wants to go out and if someone wants to modify this data, he cannot, because the moment he does it and he this data is searched, he won't be able to get the certificate out there because that does not exist. and you cannot go out and you cannot modify the backend. So that is again something which is very much important. And all those paperwork and all those background checks and everything that happen to just verify what your certificates are, whether they're original and all those things, they go away. So that is again something where the government is working. So these are the three major areas where even the government is working. How, who means which authority will own the digital contract technology if implemented in research? So if you talk about implementation of all the things that I just talked to you about in the previous slide, all this data would not be, I would say, not be controlled by government, but yes, it will be overviewed by the government, because all these records and everything is going to be there on the blockchain. So government can review it, government can see whether the correct data is getting there. They can create a kind of a private blockchain on which all that data will be there. So the government can control this data, but the government, even after it's controlling that data, all that data is in the public eye. So let's say today the problem with the lands is some mafia captures it, or someone else goes out and does something with that land, or someone changes the land deed, titles, and everything. Here you cannot do that because all those records are put on a blockchain, and you cannot edit that blockchain. So that is going to be there. And if any private party is bringing in, if you are using any public blockchain, so that data is with everyone. If you're using a private blockchain, that data is with only that person who is running that private blockchain. Then if I talk about not just the government, but the big entities. So all those people, a lot of companies, a lot of entities, if you see on the in the image itself, you will see a lot of entities who have gone out and who have started using blockchain. So from 2017 to 2020, a lot of use cases have emerged where a lot of things are happening. Hi, if the digital certificate is stored centrally as backend is not accessible to all, how it is on blockchain. So I'm not saying that the data is going to be stored centrally. I said the data is going to be on the blockchain, which is going to be distributed. But because it is a private blockchain, the whole, you can say, security that is being maintained, that would just be maintained by the government. The data will still be distributed. The data will not be just with the government. It would be distributed, and anyone can go out and anyone can check that data. So that is it. And next, so that is where also the data is encrypted. Yeah. So the data is encrypted, definitely. So you cannot make any modifications. Absolutely. So because of this particular reason, blockchains are very much into very much wide adoption. And because of COVID, so before COVID, this adoption was a little bit slow. But because all of us have come online because of this COVID factor, what is happening is a lot of details, a lot of things that are happening today are there online. And that has massively boosted the use of blockchain. Now, if you see banks, anything, a bank, most of the banks, Reliance, Geo, companies, corporates, Oracle, IBM, Infosys, NIT, Mahindra, all these are big names and they're all using blockchains today. Even the government is focusing on a lot of blockchain adoption as well. So this is about, so the government, the big giants, what about the startups? Exactly. What about the startups? So startups also, this is a slide by NASCOM. So startups have also gone out and startups are emerging out as a very big player in the blockchain space. So if you talk about technology, if you talk about BFSI, which is a banking one, if you talk about retail, if you talk about government, healthcare, human resource management, everything is now happening. A lot of such things, I'm not saying everything, a lot of such things are happening on the blockchain space. So a notion that people have, is blockchain already there in India? The answer is yes, it's already there in India. It's very much working. A lot of job opportunities, a lot of things are already there. And the only motive for me to go out and tell you why about all these things is I just wanted to make you understand that it's not just about coders, it's not just about those people who are just going out and saying, hey, only we can do this. No, you always need legal people. You always need a lot of people if you're developing an industry. Software industry, for instance, do you feel that software industry just employs software coders? The answer is no. They have their lawyers, they have their content creators, they have their finance professionals managing the entities, and a lot of things. So it's exactly the same way when you talk about blockchains. So there is just one, if you are someone who is from a non-tech background, there is just one thing. This is exactly just one thing that you're missing out, which is blockchain developer and a coder. And that's it. There are plenty of other revenues. Let's say you are someone who is a lawyer. So, I mean, last week only, I was talking to someone who wants to establish a cryptocurrency exchange in India. I cannot name it, obviously, but who does that work? That's the work of a lawyer. That's the work of a lawyer to ensure that all the documentations and everything is going to happen correctly. Or let's say if you are getting a notice from a court for let's say some cryptocurrency exchanges which they feel are illegitimate, who has to go out and fight this? A lawyer. So very much. And if you talk about those smart contracts, after those smart contracts are built, how do you go out and defend, or how do you uplift them, or how do you ensure that if there is no one who, or if anyone is getting suffering from that, what is happening is you cannot go out, you cannot do that. Why? Because blockchain is ensuring that. But lawyers are also very much required to understand these things and to ensure that all the things that are happening, they're able to make out law. Maybe if you're in the government as and a person who from the law, you can help the government in understanding it better so that better laws come out, better laws prevail. So that is again something which is there. So lawyers very much. The next one is a lot of people are into research, or you can say just like M&A, equity research, and public equity, all those things which you do for a listed company. That is exactly what you do for a research company. So that is my current role, for example, public blockchain research. So I'm a blockchain researcher. So this is something also I don't have any knowledge about the course any till date, and I'm still doing that. The next is product development. So if you have someone from the sales department or who loves to do a sales or sell out products, if you understand blockchain, then only would you be able to sell out the products which you are going out and you are selling or which you are enabling. So only then you would be able to do the sales, or you would be able to make any organization onboard you only and only when you understand this technology. And no, nobody goes and asks if you are just giving out a financial presentation. Nobody is going to ask, hey, what is the backend code? Has anyone ever asked you when you pitch a UPI product or anything like that? Hey, how is the code running at the back? Nobody asks you. So again, something which is there as something where you can go out and create a future. Which areas have more potential for jobs for a banker? Cryptocurrency, blockchain, blockchain research, and public equity. So you understand the banking ecosystem, you know what the things are lacking there, and then if you learn what are the new things that are coming, how they're filling up the lacunas, you can be a very good person who can bridge that gap in between. And this has started to happen. If you will see some of the very good protocols like which are there on blockchain, like for example Aave, Uniswap, and all, they are now going into collaborations with financial institutions. So that could be a place. Then the next one is a consultant. Consultant. So when you're someone who knows how these private blockchains work or consortium blockchain, so there are three types of blockchain. First is public. Public blockchain is something where you can go and you can participate in the blockchain. You can see the data, and you can go out and you can add more data to it, provided you follow all the things that are there. So you are free to do anything on that chain. That is a public blockchain. A private blockchain is maybe a single organization trying to just replicate what the blockchain is all about, having distributed databases and everything. So that is a private blockchain, which is within that particular four walls of that entity. An outsider cannot even go, cannot view the data in it. An outsider cannot edit that data and cannot become a part of it. That is why it's private. A consortium is basically a mix of private and public, and because of this merger of private and public, what happens is basically in private and public, you would go out and you would create a something which is some you will take some good factors of public, you will take some good factors of private. Like for example, a recent consortium of 16 banks that happened. So that is a consortium blockchain where these 16 banks are going to share the data on top of the blockchain. So not everyone has the access, but more than one party has the access. It is there on the blockchain itself. So all those 16 people would be, or 16 entities, or the people whom they allocate, they can go edit that data, add more data, or they can monitor, or they can ensure the security of that data. So all that is a consortium. So when you're going out and when you're talking to entities, basically startups or big fours, or let's say any of these Fortune 500s, they want to implement blockchain. Now, when they want to implement blockchain, they have to know. that, okay, if they want to implement blockchain, they have to understand that blockchain is something which, whether it is required or not, because today, one of the biggest problems with blockchain is it's overhyped. Everyone wants to say that, okay, if this is a problem, let's implement blockchain and it will solve, which is not true. And because of this, what has happened is a lot of things are going to fail. So you have to go out and, as a consultant, tell them whether, first of all, blockchain is something which you want to implement. First thing. Second, if you want to implement it, which blockchain has to be implemented? Whether it's a public one, whether it's a consortium one, whether it's a private one. If it's a private one, which particularly private one? So this is also something which you, as a consultant, can do. The next is crypto tax experts. So for anyone who is going out and who wants to, who understands how the cryptocurrencies work, how the profits are taken out, or how exactly the transactions are happening, and all those things, then you are someone who has a very rare gift of understanding the taxation. Because 99% of the people are not able to understand, or even if it, the only thing most of the people would go out and say in this finance domain is, yeah, cryptocurrencies are to be taxed, and you would either go it in IFOS or business incomes or capital gains. After that, how do you do it? Nobody knows. 90% of the people today who are just talking about crypto taxation, they are just lingering on these three things. That the government has not given anything. There is something like Section 2, based on which every income is taxable because it's a property and it has accrued in India. And these are the three categories in which you can tax. That's it. But if you are a step ahead, you know how cryptocurrencies work, how you can move that cryptocurrency out, or how you calculate taxes and gains. But the average money that you get to file a cryptocurrency return is from 20,000 to 1 lakh. And this is something which I've got. That's why I'm telling you it's not something where I can do just, I'm just giving you a hypothetical number. So that is again something which is there. Now, another thing is, if you're someone who loves community building, who loves to bring people together, who loves to interact with a lot of people, community managers is there for you. You just go out, become a community manager with all these blockchain companies. They really want all of you. If you understand all those things, to manage their communities, to build their communities, to ensure that everyone is understanding what they're trying to build, because that is how the products are going to increase, the people are going to know more about you and the project, and that is how the projects are going to flourish. So that is for you. I mean, again, something which is not related to anything which talks about tech. The next is internships. So a lot of internships are also offered by various companies, and yes, you don't need any certification to tell them, hey, this is my certification on blockchain. They don't care. The best part about blockchain is nobody cares what certificate you hold, but what they care about is how much information and knowledge you have with yourself. And that is what matters. So that is again something which is there. And now, if you're someone from the finance background as well, like I told you about the DeFi infrastructure which was there. So if you want to create returns on this DeFi. So when I was working with my previous organization, this was my role, where I worked as a treasury manager to bring out results, or bring out returns for them in the DeFi world, not in the banking world, but in the DeFi world. So all these things are available, and none of them require any one of you to go out and code. I think I have one more question, which is, I'm working in an ATM industry taking care of sales. Eager to work in blockchain industry, I have decided I have decent network of stakeholders in banking and related industries. So that's amazing. I think if you want to go out and if you want to venture, I mean, if you were in the ATM industry, there are some new ATMs that have been set up across the globe. You can look out on the internet. There are more than 23,000 ATMs that have been established on Bitcoin. So just to tell you that here also there is a scope, and if you want to venture into Indian scenario where you want to establish the Bitcoin ATMs, that's a way. Apart from that, I mean, wherever you want to go, I mean, now is the time. If you are there in the webinar and if you want to get into this blockchain, tell me what exactly you are doing and where you want to do. I would, if I have not covered it here, I would definitely go on and tell you, hey, this is how you can go, and just keep typing till then. I'll just cover my last scenario, which is the 8 month rule, or into how you get into this industry. Now, this is very much important for you. Why? Because, like I told you, there is no certification required. So, if there is no certification required, there is no way in which you can go out and you can do something like say, okay, I have the certification, and you give me a job. Nobody cares about your certificate. I can give it to you in writing. So, yeah, go ahead and write it in the chat box, whatever you want to do, which field you want to go, and I would help you on that. So the first 3 months, if you want to get into a blockchain journey, it's not a 1 month journey, first of all. So if you are just in there because you want to get into this whole industry just because you feel that you will be getting a job very quickly, the answer is no. You have to devote at least 8 months into this industry minimum, and that too with full devotion. It's not like, okay, I'm doing something today and after 3 months I want to do something else. So this is something where you have to go out and you have to ensure that whatever you are working, so the first 3 months, all you have to do is you have to go out and you have to check out courses. If you want, you can do the courses which I have also done, which I have also prepared. You can head out to my website, skill91.com, and you can check out the courses there. So we have 3 courses. So you, apart from that, even from somewhere else, if you want to go out and do those courses, you have to go out and you have to learn what blockchain is all about, what decentralized finance is all about, what cryptocurrencies is all about. Once you know that, once you've developed your basis there, the next 4 months, what you have to do is you have to start interacting with people. And the best part about this industry again is there is no very high hierarchy. Okay, I cannot reach the top because that top is very much high. And these startups are very new. Even in the company in which I am working, I most probably am at the third or the fourth level. That's it. I can easily talk to anyone in my company. Why? Because it's a very small company as compared to those financial Fortune 500. So this is something where you can today go interact with those people on Twitter, Clubhouse, Instagram, or Telegram. All these places are there where you can just simply go out, interact, talk to the people. If you're not understanding any particular blockchain product, any cryptocurrency, you can head out to their. You can just Google their name, and on the website they will always give you the ways in which you can socially connect with them. You can ask them. That is how you gain more traction. Then once you are able to understand them, start telling people about it, start sharing that knowledge about, tell everyone that this is something this is something which is going on, and this is something where you want to go and create all those things. Once you're able to do that, once you're able to do all those things and people start to recognize you, hey, I know that guy, he was talking to me about that, he has done a very good content on blockchain on this particular topic on LinkedIn, and I was reading it, it's really good. And all those things, once you're able to do it and then you apply, they all want to see what you have done in this industry. And not that you have coded in the industry, but how much you know, how much you can interact, how much stocks you can do. Once you are able to do that in this next 4 months, then is the last month, which is the eighth month, where you can just apply. And a lot of people said there are no jobs on blockchain. So what I did was I created a website and I just listed all the jobs for non-tech. So you will never find any tech jobs there. All the non-tech jobs which are out there, you can just go out on this website which I've listed here, and you can check out all the jobs. So these jobs, most of these jobs, if you will go and check, they will never say that they require this kind of a professional certification, and and you can just directly click and apply. So there is no other hidden things like you have to log in or do on any of those stuff. Just click, you land up to the website page, and you can go out and check what exactly are those jobs all about. And there are 3 types of job. One is internship. You can go and take internships. Second is where you have full-time jobs within India. The third is where you don't have jobs in India, you have jobs in foreign, but you can still sit in India and do those jobs. So that is the job that you should be aiming at the end, because sitting at home and earning in dollars is one of the biggest dream that most of the people have. So with that, I will close my presentation and I'll be open for questions now.
So we have a question from Mr. Nitesh Agarwal. He's asking, he's a CA fresher and he wants to know how can he start a career in blockchain.
So the best part is, again, like I told you, the 8 month plan. You have to go and you have to study first, and you can do it from any other courses like Coursera or any such Udemy and all those things. Or you can also pursue from where I have created those courses. So I have the courses listed on Skill 91, and there what you can do is you can simply just go out and you can simply just register and do those courses. What these courses will give you is they will give you those building blocks and how you have to create your whole understanding of blockchain. So that is the first step. Once you do that, then you can go out and you can see how you have to enhance your knowledge in order to check out those jobs. So the best thing is you just go out to my website, check the jobs first. What are the jobs? How much they are paying? And once you will see that, I think automatically you will be wanting to learn blockchain.
So next question is by Rohan Agarwal. He's asking, is it necessary to code your own platform that runs blockchain? How can we use existing platforms and what agency does it take away then?
So whenever you are talking about blockchains, it's never that you have to start from the scratch. You can just build on top of any existing blockchain out there. And like for example, the public blockchains, the private blockchains. For public blockchains, you can build on top of Ethereum, which is the most widely used in today. And you can build all those smart contracts that I was talking about on Ethereum. There is no entry barrier, nothing like that. And agencies, so agencies, you will have to go. I think if you have any particular use case in your mind, then what you can do is you can go out and you can say that, okay, this is something I want to do. And you can just Google about those agencies. So Hyperledger, Corda, Ethereum Enterprise Solutions, all these are there where you can just get those solutions. So you just Google them out, you will get the list of entities through which you can get yourself coded whatever you want to.
Thank you. Next question is by Gayatri. She's a private equity fund accountant and she wants to remain relevant to the industry. So she wants to understand that how she should go about this.
See, it's not about being relevant. It's more about where what you can add more. You would always see fund accounting is something. I'm not saying that within 5 years or 6 years everything will go away and blockchain will take over. That's a myth. That everything will go away and blockchain is going to be 100% everywhere. But it's about taking the first advantage, first mover advantage. So that's only one. That's the first thing that I got in this industry, which is the first mover advantage, where there was no path which was in front of me. There was no one telling me to learn blockchain, but I knew that once I read about it, it had the potential and I wanted to make a career in it. So that is what is giving me the first mover advantage and all the advantages that I have over it. So it's not about you getting outdated, it's about you getting that first mover advantage. So getting that first mover advantage will always help you in a way where you have. So I'll just give you an example. Being a chartered accountant, when I was going out and giving the interviews, let's say for the jobs that are relevant for chartered accountants, exactly like the audit jobs and all those things. What happened at that point of time was there were 40 people and the jobs were two. So I had to compete with 40 people and to get that job. And most of the time, I would not succeed. I'm open to that. I am open to my failures. I have done that. I was not able to. But when I went ahead and when I was going out and giving the interviews to these blockchain companies or these crypto companies, they would not even there were three roles, five roles, seven roles open, and there were four people, five people just standing for that role. It was bound to happen. It was you. There was no other way that that this is not going to happen. That and after that, it's you who decide how much you get paid. So when I made a switch from non-blockchain to blockchain industry, I got a hike of 120%. So that's a hike you got. And
Great.
if I would remain in that industry, it's all about, I would have still got a hike, but not that high. Why? Because there's a requirement here and there's a very dearth of people available. So that is where I will say that go for it because that's going to give you an advantage, not because you fear that you're going to be you're going to be replaced in the future.
I completely agree with you that we should go to places wherein there are less people. Like I also, specialize in insolvency and bankruptcy. So when I joined insolvency, it was in 2016 when the code came. So there were very less people, and I got recruited because I had experience in insolvency, and there were very less people in that industry. So I completely agree with you on this. Now, next question is by Jinal Patel. He's asking, what are the business opportunities available for someone who does not want to go for freelancing or wants to do a job?
So jobs are available. All most of the things that I've told you, they were all about jobs, becoming a treasury manager, becoming a researcher, becoming a consultant with any firm. So all those things, they are just about not freelancing. They're about working with a company and doing all those stuff. So all those things which I told, I think I told a lot of
Are
them.
there any business opportunities also available?
See, business opportunities are available once you understand the technology. Until and unless you understand the technology, business opportunities won't exist. And I've seen like 13-year-old kids managing hundreds and thousands of dollars. So it's anyway possible if you understand this.
So next question is by Ashutosh. He's asking how can we leverage use of blockchain to improve education industry?
So education industry. So the first thing about blockchain, which helps is record sharing. So like I told you, the certification that is getting issued. So you will always have a original certificate. That is the biggest use case for education industry. The second is all the content that you make and you publish. So you will always have, if you try to publish that, though that's going to be a very expensive venture, because blockchains, if you're trying to take space on blockchain for anything, that costs you. But if you want to store that data, which let's say education and everything, that you can do into some structures like IPFS, which is interplanetary storage systems. And here, what you do is, instead of storage, it's just like you store data on a torrent. So it's not there on a central place. It's distributed, so nobody can bring it down, and it's up and running always, even if your server goes down. So that is again one thing which you can use in blockchain.
Thank you. Next question is by Sunil. He's asking there appears to be many subdomains in blockchain, cryptocurrency, smart contracts. Which subdomain is good for bankers?
See, bankers, basically, I would again say smart contracts is something where bankers should be focusing on, or they should be, if they are focusing on products, and if they want to talk about existing blockchains which can be implemented with the help of, or which are already being used by the banks, then you should go for private blockchains, because like R3, Corda, Hyperledger. So these are various solutions which are already being implemented by the banks. JP Morgan has also started as a office for blockchain in India. So they have hired somewhere around 15, 20 people out there, and they're managing the global data for the new product that they have launched, and all those things. So these are the various ways in for a banking professional to go in.
Then there is next question by Shrikant. He's asking, is there any limit to do an internship in blockchain?
No, there is no age limit. You can anyway, whenever you want to go, whichever. Nobody cares about your age. Nobody cares about your certificates. All they care about is your knowledge.
So I think that was the last question. Now we can wind up the session. Thank you so much, Aishwary. It was an insightful session, and for me also, because I have not read about blockchain earlier, and conducting this, I think it has been helpful for all of us, and for whom people who wants to make a career in blockchain. We look forward to having you in our future courses and webinars also. Thank you to all the participants, and thank you for your questions.